We're going to talk about how companies are leveraging combined technologies, including 5G, the cloud, AI, and more during the pandemic and beyond. How much of what we have learned, how much of what we have applied during these recent months is going to be sticky and really is going to be the pathway to the future of work as we will experience it. We'll discuss the challenges we've had to overcome, the opportunities for greater efficiencies in the future. And to do that, I am very pleased to have with us the CEO of Honeywell Connected Enterprise, Dallara, and the CEO of Genpact, Tyagarajan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. And Tiger, I promise I'm not going to use any Tiger King jokes today, okay? I'm going to put them aside. You know, I want to begin with a broad and kind of opening question for both of you. And Tiger, why don't you take the first whack at it? Are we living the future of work right now? What have we been taught about the future of work through the experience of the pandemic?
Tyler, first of all, thank you for having me on this panel. I'll start by saying we have been living through a journey of the future of work for some years now, with digital transformation being the center stage of the journey that a number of enterprises have been going through. What's happened in the last 100 days has compressed that journey from 5 years to pick a number, 18 months, 12 months, where people are saying we can get to that future faster, we can get there in an exponential way. We've always wanted to do these things. We've been forced to do it in a hurry, and it works, so let's get there faster. So long and short of the answer is yes, we are living the future faster than we expected.
How do you answer that question, Q? Are we living the future? Are we seeing the future unfold right before us? And what parts of the future do you think are going to be most sticky and enduring? And which parts, like going to the office, may come back?
You know, Tyler, thanks for having me. I think we're seeing an acceleration of the future. I think we've seen the value of software innovation in the office. You know, we're having this video conference, this interview through video. We're using email and other tools like that. But when you go to the frontline worker and the operational world where Honeywell lives, you don't have these tools. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the technologies just haven't been affordable or effective. And that's changing with cloud and with AI and 5G. But it's also, COVID is changing the assumptions that we have around work. And in the operational world, we have a physical barrier. And so how do we run a factory remotely? How do we keep our frontline workers operating safely and productively? These are all new questions that we're all grappling with now.
So are you saying, Q, that there has effectively been a divide between the knowledge worker on the one hand, who has adapted very quickly and very easily and uses the technology in their knowledge work, and the operational worker, the frontline worker, for whom that hasn't happened as quickly, and that is where the future, that's the part of the future we haven't discovered yet?
Exactly. I think it's a very exciting area because now social distancing means you can't actually access your work site. So how do you keep the factory running? How do you repair a machine that's broken down? How do you do all those things? And what's exciting about digital transformation in the operational world is technologies are allowing us to do that better. It's easier for us to collect the data, to analyze it, to actually even just do simple things that you take such as VPN. You VPN into the office. Knowledge workers do that every day. But there are now technologies available to do that so that suppliers or your frontline workers can remotely access certain machine and equipment all over the world and keep the sites running. It's really spectacular and amazing to see.
Yeah, it is an amazing transformation. I think in my own life of the things that can be done now remotely. For example, if your cable TV goes down, they can send a signal to your router from a remote location and get it reset and put it back online. And I'm sure there are applications like that in factory settings, which your company is so involved in. Tiger, let me just jump in on what you have learned, what your enterprise has learned about what your customers want and need and will want and need as the future unfolds. What has this experience taught you about them and their desires?
I think what it's taught them and us is, number one, a number of these technologies, collaborative tools, the ability to bring a distributed global team together to grapple and find a solution. The ability to do that without having to have everyone at the same place under one roof. The need for transformation using technologies like the cloud, and to do that faster, and the value that can create. These technologies were always available. I think what all of us are realizing is that change is difficult. There is resistance. There is, no, it's too risky. Let's do it over time. COVID-19 has kind of forced us to leapfrog all of that. And now people are saying, which portions of these do we like? Because it actually opens up different avenues. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. We are in a world where demand and supply in every industry is much more volatile than before. We are in a world that tells us that old algorithms of forecasting are actually not working. And the chances are it won't work going into the long term, because the world is uncertain and will probably be uncertain for many more reasons over time. The reality is that technologies today allow much more real-time analytics to be created, presented, and used by a highly democratized distributed workforce that take decisions. We serve consumer goods and retail companies, and very quickly during COVID-19, we found, for example, the sale of wheat flour and yeast went through the roof. That was unexpected. Supply chains had to adjust very quickly. On the other hand, the sale of candy that you pick up in a store as you walk past went down, because people were not walking past candy counters in a store. So again, supply chain had to adjust. So how do you do that in the real world, and how do you hold on to that? How do you take information to the cloud, clean it up, and present analytics continuously on the fly? I think we're all realizing, one, decisions can be made faster, can be made more collaboratively. And I'll touch on one other topic. I think it's opened up talent in a very different way. Why do we have to have talent in a particular location? Can't we access talent in a different location if it's great out there? Does talent have to come to the office every day? They don't need to. Obviously, I think Q's point is right. Knowledge workers, easier to do it. Manufacturing, much more difficult. But guess what? Even knowledge workers haven't done enough of it until now.
Mm-hmm. And when you say the ability to reach and access talent and tap into workforces that previously might have said, I don't want to go to the office, I don't want to travel 3 days a week. Now we have learned that you don't need to travel maybe as much as you thought. This could open up a lot of international opportunities to bring in new talent. People who have left the workforce, women who have decided they don't want to, who might decide that now I can come back and I can have a serious, meaningful job and do it and integrate it with my lifestyle. Is that what you're pointing to, Tiger?
Oh, that's exactly what I was pointing to. So we've been on a significant journey, as many corporations, to try and increase diversity. And let's pick gender diversity as an example in our workforce. It's a tough journey over time, but we've made great progress. However, all of a sudden, we are already beginning to see in our hiring pipeline women who we've always wanted to access, but have had a challenge of saying, I don't want to commute. Is there a way I can do this work from home? And we've been very open, but not probably as open as we could have been. Our clients have been less open. All that is, all those rule books are gone. So I think this is going to open up real opportunities to access talent in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in all parts of the world that we serve our customers from, with talent that otherwise would have said, I'm going to take another 5 years off. I wish I could come back, but it'll take me another 5 years to come back.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that topic in just a minute. But Q, I want to get your perspective on what Tiger just talked about there. But I also want to get your thoughts on, he answered the question, what have you learned about what your customers want and need? I'd like to turn that a little bit and ask you, what have you learned about your own enterprise through this experience and the the changes that you think will be lasting in how you approach your work, how your enterprise approaches its work and interfaces with customers. What have you learned about your company, your enterprise?
Well, speaking about customers, our sellers are beginning to have customer meetings in person, and we're putting together safety kits for them just to ensure their safety as they travel, take flights, and venture beyond the home or the office. And it occurred to me that safety has always been in the area of the industrial world. We always provide protective equipment for our workers. We have safety procedures. We provide ventilation, air purification, and so forth. The industrial world is a matter of course. You can't open a factory without that. But now I think that's happening also in the office arena, where maybe the most pressing urgent issue around safety was ergonomics. But now, while you don't need a hard hat, you've got increased sanitation requirements. How do you check into an office? If you have a paper-based system to obtain consents, how do you effectively shepherd hundreds of workers into an office block? And so safety now becomes a very important criteria to give employees confidence to come back to work and to come back to productivity. So it occurs to me as innovations moving from the IT world into the operational world, safety is moving from the industrial world to the office world.
Very interesting. And you see that change as an enduring one?
I do. I certainly think the world is going to be a lot more safe, to be a lot safer, not less safe. And increased need for UV sterilization, for higher standards of ventilation, air purification is going to be needed, whether you're in a Starbucks or a McDonald's or a hotel. It's things that I think would be unimaginable previously, but now is a requirement for us to be able to, for all of us to return to work.
How much less do you think your workforce will travel 12 or 18 months from now than they did pre-pandemic, Q?
I certainly think in the next 1 to 2 years, that type of traffic will be reduced. It's hard to tell. I have to say, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't think anyone knows what the new normal is going to be like. What I think is going to be a constant is we have to be flexible. And I think it's going to change in certain areas. In our manufacturing arenas, we've been nonstop working since the pandemic, materialized. So that hasn't stopped, and we've figured out how to make that work. So I think it's going to vary in different sectors and different arenas. But I think we all hope that all sectors of the economy will spring back to work soon.
Tiger, I'm famous around CNBC for asking double-header questions, and I'm going to ask one to you right now. And the first part of it is, how do you judge mood and morale of your workforce when the workforce is distributed? That's question one. And question two comes from the audience. Question for Tiger. As a knowledge worker, what are the biggest challenges to change for your business, and how are you adapting? So one is, how do you judge mood and morale? And the other is, what are the biggest obstacles or challenges to change for your business?
So, Tyler, the first question is actually a great question. And the fact that I think a number of leaders across enterprises are actually thinking about it and worrying about it is the first good news. It is very important in a distributed workforce where everyone is right now at home. And over time, there'll be a mixture of work from home and work in the office, of understanding mood, of understanding engagement. You just can't walk across and understand that by just having a conversation at the desk. There are various ways to do that. I'll tell you what we have done very quickly, and this is the power of digital. About 12 months back, we had started experimenting with a chatbot that actually would go out to employees across the globe. We have 95,000 employees, and ask them questions. And based on the answers, come up with mood scores across various dimensions. In COVID-19, we realized that better get the way we actually judge mood every 24 hours. So now we have this chatbot that goes out every day, asks a bunch of questions, doesn't ask everyone, it goes to people who the machine says I think it's worth going back to this person because yesterday we didn't get a great answer. I think the person is not feeling great, is not getting help from the manager, doesn't have good tools, is feeling very claustrophobic at home. It picks that up. The AI machine learning goes and asks the question. We aggregate that. And then someone like me and my team look at it and say, there's a pocket of people in Bucharest, in Romania, where we have 4,000 people, but this group of 100 seems to have a score that doesn't sound right in terms of, I don't feel good about what I'm doing. I feel depressed. You can have interventions. So we've launched 1-800 numbers. We've launched counselors, much more than before. We think that's very important in the world today and going into the future. I think we have discovered the ability to use technology to do that better than just humans. It's always going to be a mix of the two. So we think that's a big game changer, not just for COVID-19, but post-COVID-19. It's going to last.
Mm-hmm. Quick answer to the second question. What are the biggest challenges to change for your business, and how are you adapting? Just quick.
I think not just for our business, Tyler. The challenge to change is the fear of change. And one of the things that that COVID-19 has done is basically because constraints were put in place and no options were given, you took away the opportunity to even fear. And now that we're experiencing it, we're saying, hey, this works. I'll go back to the question you asked, which is travel. We have a belief that in our business, given our business is consulting and consulting with our clients on digital, our travel will come down, I'm just going to pick a number, by 50% forever. It's got nothing to do with COVID-19. It's got to do with the fact that now that we've experienced a world where actually we can be much more productive with lesser travel, and our clients actually are saying the same thing. We think that in our business, we're going to travel broadly 50% less. Now, remember, in our business, a lot of our people travel a lot. I travel 150 days a year. Now, I don't think I'm going to travel 150 days a year, irrespective of COVID-19. Why am I saying that? I think we're getting more productive. We are able to engage with our clients actually deeper, more often, with much less gap between these meetings. And what it is leading to is, I think, a big culture change on decision making. If I thought about big decisions that used to take 6 months, 9 months across a core set of leaders in our clients, or even within the company ourselves, I'm now able to crunch it down to weeks. And I think the world is going to be a better place if all of us can move to decision making much faster. And I think that's breaking barriers, it's breaking silos, it's a culture change. And we are very excited about that culture change.
That's very interesting, because I was actually going to make my last question, and since you sort of answered it, I'm going to turn to Q with it, about speed and speed of decision making. I'm not a decision making executive, but you two are, and I can imagine that this COVID experience has imposed upon you the need for speed. You have to be nimble, you have to be able to change quickly. I see it in our enterprise, how quickly we adapted to doing broadcasts like this, virtually, doing live television for CNBC or NBC from people's homes and basements. Q, how much quicker have you come to make decisions, and do you think that that is one of the key residues of this experience? In other words, you will never go back to that 8 or 9 month decision-making process that Tiger just described, but you know now how fast you can move.
Absolutely. There is an absolute need for speed and for flexibility, because things change so quickly now. We had to tear our plans that we had on January 1 and completely rebuild the plan in 2 weeks. We had to massively reduce third-party spend in order to preserve as many jobs as possible. There were tools we didn't need. For example, we had supplier risk because they couldn't ship or the city was closed. How do we shift the supply chain so that materials would arrive at the factory and we could produce things? We built 2 factories producing N95 masks in 5 weeks, and that would normally take 9 months. And all of this, I think there's 2 things. One is we as an organization were energized to solve the mission. What's our contribution to this crisis? Was one that really galvanized all of us. And 2, we really leveraged software. When you have a new problem, how do we solve the problem with software? And we have a strong software capability within Honeywell, and that allowed us to solve our supply problem. We released a tool for our supply chain leaders in a matter of a week. And they're using that now to manage all the supply chain disruptions across the company. And when we build these tools, we build in a way that one day this could be a product. And so this sort of idea of product thinking around how do we solve these problems quickly and flexibly is really a trait that I think will stick in our organization for the long term.
Hugh Dallara of Honeywell Connected Enterprise, thank you very much. Tyagarajan,
Pleasure.
thank you of Genpact. We appreciate your contribution today. We'll hope to see you soon and maybe even in person. We appreciate it.